Are you muted, sir? I don't hear you, Professor. Professor, I don't hear a thing. Is it me? Professor, you're muted.
Yeah, should be.
I heard.
Anyway, you should be able to hear me now. Sorry about that. Yeah, I guess I was muted. I had my mic off. I pushed the. Now it's on. All right, good. So I'm sorry about that, guys. Let's start over. Like I said, we are live, so no big deal. So people are coming in now. Anyway, so it's another edition of the Liberty Report with Professor Red Pill and Adam Mad Maxwell from Liberty Rising Group. And remember, like, subscribe, and share with friends. We're going to be talking about today AI, and this is a good topic to get on. I got some stuff on my shoulder here, no big deal. So we're talking about AI, the algorithm, and system of control, so to speak. So we're going to get into how artificial intelligence and the algorithm is starting to control the narrative and media, social media, entertainment, everything, and it's becoming very, I guess, 1984ish in a sense. I don't know. That's basically where we're going with this, and yeah, hopefully it's a good podcast, and we get into some interesting topics. And I got a lot that I want to cover, and I think Adam also has his side that he wants to talk about. And that's about it. I don't know. Take it away, Adam. I guess. Sorry about being muted, by the way.
Thank you for joining us on this 4th of February 2026. I think what we're discussing today is not about excesses, mistakes, or overreach, but more an examination of what is, I suppose, architecture. Right? Modern states, they do not merely surveil. First off, this is true without AI, without the technology. It's a very synthetic, controlled environment. What technology, algorithm, what everything moving digital has been able to do is that the environment becomes even more able to be manipulated, surveilled, everything logged, everything stored in a database that may be used against you one day. But not only, the surveillance is ambient, it's continuous, it's normalized across every domain of life. It is digital, it's also financial, medical, psychological, social. The system is able to capture data everywhere. You go out in public, if you live in a major city, they have AI face tracking. Your cards are being used, what you write on social media. One thing that is fascinating is you can consider X, Twitter, as a social media platform where people talk and there's engagement and you discuss certain topics and maybe make some jokes, but really it's just a social database. That's it. Now, maybe the same is true for Facebook and Telegram and YouTube, although I think YouTube less so because they have to transcribe everything. But X, I noted this very immediately. Every single thing you do on X, database logged Grok. I think they're moving this AI onto Telegram also. And of course, with the Microsoft Copilot Windows 11 or 12, whatever it is, they're taking a screenshot of your things every few seconds. And, it's not being analyzed, but it is. The point is that really the surveillance is total. And it's no longer something you're able to get away from by just living your life. It's everywhere. So, yes, our wonderful system has algorithms to control you. They've always kind of had algorithms to control you. Yeah, they controlled the media. They still control the media. It's just this progressive advance and encroachment of technology expands their mandate, and it means that there's really not much limit. Most of many people's lives are online. I mean, when's the last time someone went a day without your telephone? Maybe you have. Congratulations. I haven't gone. I went last week because mine broke down, but I haven't gone very long. So
Yeah, I had
we're
my phone that you mentioned that my phone broke. I've been having issues with the Google Pixel that I had at a 6A, I believe, or six, and it broke down many times. Like I didn't lose any data first time. It was down for a week. I took it to the repair shop. They repaired a couple chips on it. I thought it was a battery at first. They replaced the battery. Then it kept messing up. Then I had them replace the chip on the logic board. It worked for about maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month. They told me that they were like, dude, it's a quick fix. It's just so you can get your data off of the phone. And I did so. I got all the data off, and they said, if basically when it fails, we're going to have to replace the entire logic board. We suggest you just buy a new phone. We could basically buy it back and use it for parts if to get your money back. It's no problem. But what I'll do is I'll have them basically replace the logic board. But I don't know. I've been reading on the Pixel, and apparently the Pixel is having update issues with their older phones. And I don't know if there's a corporate social responsibility, where basically they're just sabotaging old phones that you buy a new one. That's what I think, but I can't prove that. That's just, what I mean. It is what it is. We'll know later on, probably like 5 years down the road, or like another year down the road, where there's a class action lawsuit or some kind of like investigation if there's enough complaints. But I believe that's reading those articles and researching it sounds like that's basically what's going on, is that there's a lot of issues. And I think Microsoft is having similar issues with their recent operating system. So there's some pitfalls with the technology. But I'm sorry. Yeah, I digress. Go ahead, Adam, with what you're continuing with that topic.
I was just saying that as technology has progressed, more and more and more permeability is now capable of being surveilled. Um, I think one of the big questions for this episode is, at what point does surveillance stop being a tool and becomes the environment itself? Right? Total surveillance is not a single mechanism; it's a diversified control architecture. Legal, psychological, demographic, narrative, all of this is being used by your government and by the super governments with an unlimited mandate. Well, while they also deny such a mandate exists, the point is that technology allows what is a panopticon where it's difficult, if not impossible, to get away from. Muted. Muted.
I know I'm muted. I'm just trying to pull this up. So corporate social responsibility. This is a lexicon for today's podcast. I know a lot of people may not be familiar with this particular lexicon. So I want to break it down because I'll be referring to this probably throughout the podcast. So corporate social responsibility, or CSR for short, for acronym. It's a self-regulating business model where companies integrate social, environmental, and ethical concerns into their operations and stakeholder interactions. It goes beyond legal compliance to positively impact society, focusing on sustainability, labor practices, community engagement. Key pillars include environmental stewardship, ethical labor, philanthropy, and economic responsibility. Above other things, too, is that it's important for it's also important, like with ethical behavior and marketing and sales and things of that nature, and customer satisfaction. So yeah, I mean, I'll be using that lexicon throughout. I don't want to make this a real academic podcast, but it's important to understand what we're talking about in the lexicon, because this might be actually a more complicated podcast for some, and that's what's going to make it interesting, obviously. But yeah, I mean, in my book, Unleash Your Inner Sigma Male, the link's in the description. You can also get it through signing up for Locals. Rumble 3 gets you $3 off your first month's membership, and you get access to my book. I talk about about the corporate social responsibility in it. There's a section where I talk about Facebook and Meta in Europe, where this particular question or case study came up, and they were found actually liable for basically taking people's data information, what we're going to be talking about, and selling it to third parties. And the European Union basically was like, yeah, dude, you're doing some unethical stuff, and this is not good, because you should be informing the customer, the client, that you're gathering their information and databases and basically selling it to third parties. And I mean, beyond that, I mean, the other issue here is like Meta, for instance. We're talking about like big data companies. Meta right now has estimated 1 exabyte of storage data across all platforms. So this includes like their photos, videos, messages, logs, and metadata. That's 1 billion gigabytes of storage. And I believe recently, I may have read an article, or it might have been passing through Telegram, but apparently Zuckerberg has said that he has access to everybody's WhatsApp messages and he reads everybody's stuff. So there is no, unlike Telegram, which we our primary group chats on. It's all their legacy group, as well as the Professor Red Pill official channel, and then the Liberty Rising group. That apparently, from what I understand with Telegram, the purpose of the actual app is to keep customer service or customer data secure. And it's a double-edged sword, so to speak. I mean, we'll get further into it, but more or less, like this is what I mean by corporate social responsibility: is where your data is being stored, who has access to it, and how is it being used. And should you be informed and understand that, yeah, my data needs to be secured. I need to know where it's at, how it's being used, if it's being sold to a third party, or even worse, a government entity is gathering that information to build a case against you, or someone's using it for blackmail. And these are all different issues that need to be addressed. And as this AI bubble or AI integration continues through social media and different platforms that we use in technology. I'm going to end with that, I guess. So if you want to take, if you have anything else you want to say on that, Mad Max, go ahead, man. A lot to take in, a lot of information. Are you still there, brother? Mad Max. Mad Max. He might be having some issues. All right. Anyway, so basically, one of the agendas that I wanted to get on was the AI personalization in your feeds. So this is like your social media platforms like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, X, and Facebook. They're using AI to predict what keeps you engaged. This is a marketing as well as a user friendly or user specific algorithm. And what this looks at is basically what you watch, like, comment, or share, how long you pause on a post, what you scroll past quickly, and who you interact with most. So the effect of this is like two people searching the same topic will see very different content. So it's very personalized and specialized for the user. So I mean, where this has an issue is that this information obviously is got to be stored on databases. And I mean, they're going to be using it for marketing, but more importantly, are they going to be using this information for third parties? Are they going to be selling this information? Is this information going to be available to entities that could basically cause harm? That's the big thing. So like, if it, and the other thing too is if you consider like conspiracy theories, like there was a movie, Conspiracy Theory, with Mel Gibson. I think that's the name of the movie actually, but like he was talking about like libraries, why he doesn't use libraries, and because like he was saying that basically the alphabet agencies keep a database of all of the books that you checked out, so they can kind of put you in an algorithm and figure out like exactly if you're up to nefarious things or any types of things of that nature. I mean, that's a gimme. I don't, at that time it was very paper orientated. So, I don't think they really had databases at that extent, but this is what we're dealing with now. I mean, with the amount of technology and information that's being gathered and used and sent between parties, especially with the Snowden situation that he pointed out. I mean, like they could keep all of these different databases. And the thing is with the amount of information that the governments or entities were gathering, even if it's corporate or, like I said, government based, there's a lot of information and it has to be stored. So unless they really know what they're looking for, there's no way for them to really decipher through a lot of that information that data, but it is being stored. Most of it is being stored. If you're in the United States, a lot of it's being stored in basically NSA databases. And with the use of AI, this is where the issue comes in with privacy, and like, you go to the Minority Report type situation, where they can use AI to decipher this for them in real time. So they want to find somebody's information, and they'll run it through an AI algorithm. This is possibly happening now, if not maybe in the near future, where entities can just put in certain perimeters and databases and different types of keywords, and they can figure out everything about you without even doing any type of search or investigation or anything. They can literally just put it in a database, put a bunch of AI stuff in, bunch of parameters and keywords, and then basically, whoop, there you go, have everything at their disposal to basically use against you in any type of legal manner. And this is a very big issue, and something that we really do need to discuss in today's social media, or influencing and podcasting. Nobody's talking about it, but what do you have to say on the subject?
So one of the quotes which spurred on the topic of this was by the Pakistani Home Secretary of the United Kingdom of Surveillance and Control, which is where she stated an official government policy of Prison Island. My ultimate vision for the system was to achieve, by means of artificial intelligence technology, the panopticon. That is, the eyes of the state can be on you at all times. That is the anointed vision of the United Kingdom of control, surveillance, and tyranny. Now, you pair this with the fact that our diverse democratic governments care more about the mean words you say online than pressing crimes such as rape, theft, assault, fraud in the billions, or even how many people have been arrested for naughty words on the internet in the UK, say, or Europe, all over Europe, versus, for example, how many people have been arrested with the release of certain files that have just happened in the USA. Big difference in the scale here, the magnitude. The point is, they're not surveilling you for your benefit. Just like the Patriot Act, right? Oh, we need, because 9/11 was an inside job, because of some atrocity, we need to suspend your fundamental freedoms and rights to privacy. And we're not really supposed to spy on our own citizens, but you know what we really want to do is spy on our own citizens. So that's what they did. And they enacted, well, they probably already had, but they certainly expanded the surveillance for everyone to the point that everything was being logged and they could just go in and see whatever they wanted. That's where we're at now, especially with social media, where everything is logged. There's your digital footprint, fingerprints. And should they wish to pull something up, I mean, the thing that I find crazy is people are complaining that Grok has been capable of Photoshop. And they say some of the things that Grok is Photoshopping is inappropriate. And I'm just thinking, who the heck is using Grok? And lots of people are. But I'm thinking, who the heck is using Grok to Photoshop certain things when everything you're doing into Grok is logged and it's going to be in the XAI database permanently, which is the US government, which is the CIA, whomever. Why are you doing this? I use ChatGPT quite a lot. I know everything it puts in there goes straight to the CIA, straight to the Pentagon. And they say, no, that's not really true. And I push it. I say, no, it is true. And I say, yeah, it is true, especially because there was this New York Times lawsuit against OpenAI ChatGPT that said, hey, I think you've been using our copyrighted articles. And ChatGPT said, well, no, you've released these articles. Of course, what do you mean we've abused your copyright? And so the court said to OpenAI, you cannot delete anything. Everything that goes through your system, it's got to be logged and stored. And they said, okay, well, I guess we got to comply with the court. Everything you post to, I love ChatGPT. It's like a custom search engine. That's what it is. LLM, I've got lots of projects, it retains it. But if I want to think of something where 5 years ago you type it into Google, you do some research, today I've got a custom search engine which stores that stuff, which on one hand is very good because it custom things back. On the other hand, it knows a lot, and if I'm not careful, if I write bad things, and I'm not talking about naughty language. I probably use naughtier language on my ChatGPT than I should, which would be a crime in the country I'm from. But it's a frustrating application. but but it's like people doing these things. There is this panopticon where it's constant surveillance, and there is constant surveillance. We also see a lot that goes under the radar. There should be the belief that observation is constant. But who is. When you have this abstract state, who knows who's really doing the policing? As Professor said, is Mark Zuckerberg in your DMs? Maybe.
I'm sure
if
he
he wants
I'm
to.
sure he is.
But
I'm
is
sure
it
he
Zuckerberg or is it
Yeah.
is it Zuck is it Zuck X or is it Zuck's employee number 136 or number 1492 or who knows? No one knows. So this is why it's very very dangerous.
Even scarier, I mean, just imagine if like there's a pedophile that's not known as a pedophile working for one of these big tech companies as a moderator, and they're looking at chats between children. I mean, that's another concern that needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed within Congress and Parliament and the EU Commission, saying like, "Hey, dude, like, are there child molesters reading messages on sensitive information?" I mean, how's that? This definitely falls under the the CRS guidelines. And more importantly, like I said, like what you had brought up here, AI moderates content on scale. So because humans can't review billions of posts, and I talked about this previously, so AI is going to be able to flag misinformation, detect hate speech, violence, or spam, remove or downrate content automatically. And I'm already starting to see this in YouTube or CensorTube, if you will. So where the mistake happens with this in AI, it struggles with sarcasm because it's based off of logic as opposed to an actual like emotional or whatever or satire, and it can mislabel political or controversial content because, like I said, political or controversial content, especially like art form content, is very can be very biased. You know what I mean? Like when you're scrutinizing it, it's not supposed to be fact based. It's basically satire. It's basically comedic. So it's using maybe factual information and just playing with it and making fun of it. So that can be automatically censored just basically off the AI algorithm, and that's also a major concern.
It censors like nuance. It's just not smart, right? As you say, it's at scale, but it is very indicative of the bureaucratic state. So I was sense I was there was a code leak glitch thing that you could do on X. It may still work, where you ask Grok for a semantic analysis and ask it, "Am I? What are my flags?" And how am I? You know, Elon says it's freedom of speech, not freedom of reach. So you were able to, I don't know if you still are, able to see your freedom of reach. And I typed mine in and it said, yeah, you're being massively suppressed. I said, why? It said, well, you talked about the shoes. You talked about an event that occurred with millions of people back then. I'm like, what are you talking about? I look and I was engaging with someone denying a historical event, and I was saying, no, here's the evidence. And I got throttled for engaging in a topic where I was even supporting the institutional narrative. I'm like, what's going on here? It says, oh yeah, it's just it's just delete your posts and maybe you'll. I had to go through and delete a lot of stuff that were very good, like intellectual, nuanced, appropriate even. But no, it doesn't matter because there's just keywords. There's no real rhyme or reason. This is really how government works. And the important thing is, There's a Nietzsche quote: it is better to be stupid in your own way than wise based on the opinion of others. Now, with AI, it's actually stupid. So, if it's not even the opinion of others, at least there's kind of a bit of personability there. They just, I mean, think about how stupid government is and their policies and their bureaucrats, and now translate that to AI, where it's blanket, bureaucratic. There's just no room for nuance, no room for judgment, because they have to suspend judgment. And this is why sarcasm bad. Art, if you think art's being suppressed, perhaps, I'm not sure what that means by that, but it is crazy.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, the other thing too is like you said about reach and suppression. So the AI controls of visibility. AI is going to be able to it's going to be able to see who gets viral reach. So suppression of, like, say, trending news articles, trending news stories, like with the current Epstein issue, or Epstein files that just got basically dropped. Certain types of documents and information could be suppressed through the use of AI, called, like shadow banning, for instance. So who gets limited distribution, basically, and this is called basically shadow limiting. So these factors include past account behavior, content signals, like you said, like keywords, visual, audio, policy risk detection, and obviously user reports. So most suppression is automatic. It's automatic. It's not human reviewed. So this is one of the main issues with AI, is as it takes over in social media, or just in in a sense, the corporate social responsibilities. Yeah, we want to use AI content in a sense, to find bad characters, to find bad actors. But the thing is that they represent less than 1% of users. And what happens to the 99% of users that are being affected by this particular type of algorithm that they will be implementing, they are implementing in real time in this current capacity. You still there with me? Oh, yeah,
Yeah, no,
sorry.
just thinking, like, this is the other thing that what the government likes to do is they like to impose chaos and then sell you their solution, which is the expansion of their power and governance, etc. So what they'll do, for example, with the demographics, they will employ diversity across institutions, narratives, demographics as a management strategy, and then say, you're having problems. Uh, we've got a solution: just expand the government's control and power. So, well, I wouldn't ordinarily consent to, with a. Normally, I'd put up some resistance to you increasing government power, but you know what? The problems experienced by the other government policy of mass immigration, for example, is so bad that I think we need more government power in order to solve this problem, which is government made. It's silly. Don't give them more power, but that's how they justify it. It's called a Hegelian dialectic. So, what we see is the permeability of total state surveillance, the totalitarian authoritarianism of the democratic republican states, where they refuse to accept that in reality there exists anything beyond their mandate. There is a diversity of real components to your life, and a diversity of their arsenal of instruments at their disposal. This includes media perception, right? How they mythologize, legitimize, and otherwise construct narratives to manipulate mass society. And in order to manipulate them, that their things have any legitimacy whatsoever. What they do is they this diversity of demography is able to subvert and transform, especially a unified or homogenous nation, so that you sow internal division, which further facilitates the perceived necessity of expansive coercive measures, including surveillance, to address the problems which the government themselves have manufactured. And this is what they do in lots of things. and this is how they further justify surveillance.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is like Ronald Reagan once said, he's like, what is it? The three words I guess that you don't want to hear from your government is, "We're from the government. We're here to help you." So yeah, you can't necessarily trust the government to basically do anything. Although I mean the purpose and scope of the government is to at least have some type of media exposure. So I mean, like they're basically there to kind of like deal with grievances and issues and the courts and things of that nature. Some level of safety and basic level of basic level of governance. So to keep societies just and to keep them stable. So I mean, now that we're getting into the brass tacks here, some of the I guess positives of AI in regards to optimization is the engagement. So AI algorithms basically going to be trained to maximize watch time, clicks, likes, comments, and shares. So this often means emotional content is spread faster, i.e., like I said, anger, fear, outrage, emotions, basically. So extreme or sensational posts are going to get boosted, and calm nuances content spreads a lot slower. So basically the opposition. So it's basically an echo chamber, and polarization increases. We saw a lot of this with like X during during obviously COVID and during election cycles, and the ones that are getting like I said, the ones that are getting the likes and the ones that are spreading and going viral are basically those that are pushed by not necessarily by an algorithm, but just this is natural people that are like, yeah, this is interesting. And they click on it, and basically the memes, like the meme clicks. But more or less, like the thing is how is this going to be used nefariously? I mean, it can be by governments. Governments can use this in order to spread misinformation, to spread propaganda. And if we go back to like World War II, with Churchill and other types of other government leaders, this is where we went from the telegram to the radio, the technological change of the like I said the 20th century. And Churchill was well known as a propagandist. He was well known for using he had like weekly addresses, I believe, on the radio, and it basically was an hour of propaganda. And also the Austrian painter, same thing. Was the first thing that um, the German people, or the German government. I don't want to use the actual word, but the first thing they did was they took control of the media. That was the first thing they did. They took control of the media, the newspapers, the radio, television, whatever. Television was just in its early infancies at that point, but or video rather. And like I said, the Brits did the same thing. In the United States, during World War One, they had a lot of propaganda and film. So like the silent film era, during World War One, they would make these war reels, and it got kind of dramatized in the Starship Troopers. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. I don't know if you have, Adam, but like it's
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it myself.
yeah, we did in the early days of the podcast. We used a lot of the clips from that to kind of like satire for getting people involved and signing up for the podcast. But more or less, it's like that's what they used in World War One in the United States to get people to join. Plus there's the propaganda posters and things of that nature. But you understand that this AI algorithm, social media outreach with the optimization, this is gonna allow for propaganda on steroids. I mean, especially with the AI content where they can create digital people. I remember Gonzalo Lira. We worked on a news story with him. This is actually what some believe is the reason why he was actually arrested, when he exposed the early days of the Ukrainian conflict, a staged media propaganda. And this was we did a lot of investigation, like the different people that we were working with and he was working with, because we all knew each other. And we came to find out that basically there was a video that he posted. There's a guy by the name of what was his name? I can't remember. He was an American from New York. Um, well, someone help me out here. I'll look it up. Anyway,
There are
so
lots of Americans from New York.
No, this guy was in Ukraine. He'd volunteered, and he claimed that he was a war
Velasquez?
hero. Vasquez, that's it. Yeah. So Gonzalo Lear was the first one to call him out, and I was like, he come on the podcast, and we had talked about it 'cause he was like, he had this one video where he's like, "Hey, this is a Russian tank." I was like, "That's not a Russian tank." So he came on the podcast, and we talked about it. You can watch this on previous earlier days, and I was like, "Yeah, dude, that's a Ukrainian tank that was destroyed. They just staged it." And he was asking me about the actual like video that was going viral on social media, and I was like, I mean, really? He was like, "Yeah, look at the smoke, and it's white smoke. It doesn't look real. It looks like a movie set. Everything looks staged." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, it looks staged." That guy in particular does not. And I said, like, I looked at several of his videos on social media because he was starting to get a lot of, he's starting to go viral. And I was like, "Yeah, no, this guy doesn't seem legit, like, at all." And he was wearing unit patch, and that unit patch that he was wearing, I did break this down maybe 2 years ago. The mission patch he was wearing was for a very well-known unit in World War II, and they were disbanded shortly after the Desert Storm conflict. This is the '90s, by the way. That was George Senior, not GW, not the second Gulf War. But this guy would have been in his 50s, like if he was in that unit in Desert Storm. This guy he's like my age. He's like got to be 40 now. So he's full of shit. And I called him out, and then Gonzalo Lear, I gave all the information to Gonzalo Lear. He called him out even further. And then I guess Vasquez like blocked everybody that was in opposition of him. I've been kind of neutral about the conflict. Like I said, I'm not on either side. But I just want to, like, whenever I see bullshit, I just call it. That's just how I am. I call bullshit, like Andrew Tate and any of these people, Nick Fuentes. Anytime I see bullshit, I call it. I just call it. And I'm like, I don't go out of my way to investigate or anything like that. But I'm just like, I have a good bullshit detector. And this guy was just bullshit all the way through. No, later come to find out, Vasquez is apparently he hooked up and hung out with Bald and Bankrupt and Johnny FD. These are some of the biggest grifters on social media in regards to Eastern Europe. These are sexpats that basically use con games and different types of like pyramid schemes, and the whole compass of Bald and Bankrupt is literally like he basically skipped town from the UK with a bunch of debt and just said, "Oh well." And he's well known for scamming and doing all kinds of nefarious stuff. Yeah, as well as as well as allegedly his interactions with younger women. But like, yeah, it's just these are not good people. And this is Vasquez was on a video hanging out with these guys in Ukraine. And I was like, this was after the fact. I was like, "Oh, this guy's messed up, dude. Like this isn't right." So we believe, like a lot of people believe that that the Gonzalo Lear was arrested for that particular video. For calling that out, but also because he was on RT, he was on Russian Times talking about the conflict, that it looked like it was coordinated, like they were just giving out weapons to random civilians, which they did, which was, I mean, I was like, maybe, I mean, if there's a real invasion, I mean, maybe you might want to call civilians and not give them Kalashnikovs, but I mean, like maybe give them like, non-lethals, or like, have them, be like, "Hey, come and fill sandbags, support these military guys, take a position," that sort of thing. It's chaos, but the thing is he was like walking around central Kiev, and you can hear Kalashnikovs going off all around him. And he's like, Russian forces are probably about 100 to 150 kilometers outside of Kiev. There's no reason for any type of like, Kalashnikovs to be going off right now. And he was on RT, and they called him a propagandist, and that's basically why he was arrested, was for that, and probably for the Vasquez situation. And yeah, I mean, and the thing is, it was very factual. It came out after the fact that Vasquez was a grifter, he was a con artist, and he was never in the front lines, and he never was officially volunteered. I think Sarah pretty much pointed that out. That was the tranny woman that was, in the front lines. She pretty much pointed that out. So, I mean, and it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, we called it. We told you so. I mean, it's just, yeah. So this is what I'm concerned about with the algorithm, with the social media algorithm, is that, it can be used to propagate. And like I said, instead of staging an actual, like, and I don't know if that particular area was staged, but we did find out where it was outside of Kiev, and it was actually pretty close from Kiev. It was nowhere near the front lines, and those tanks looked like they were actually brought in and placed, because it was nowhere near where Russian forces were actually invading in the initial special military operation. They were nowhere near that area of Kiev. So where the hell did these come from? You know what I mean? That's what I was like. This looks staged, bro. They were brought in. They were probably brought in from further out, in the field or whatever, and towed in there, and it looked like it was completely set up. It's neither here nor there. The war is almost over. We've been talking often, but off time and time. But
Hope so. Hope so.
yeah, I mean, the situation is that the main concern is that they could set up an algorithm, they could set up an AI video, chat, whatever, and propagate and say this is what really happened. You know what I mean? Instead of actually blowing shit up or staging something or putting stuff on film, getting actors. They don't need that. They could just do it all from like one room with one person and the NSA, and just set up an algorithm and then just say, hey, let's just move this. Kind of like the movie Wag the Dog with what's his name? Al Pacino? No, Al Pacino. Anyway, it's called Wag the Dog, where they set up. They've made a fictitious war in Bulgaria, I think, or somewhere. I think it was Moldova or Bulgaria, something like that. And they made a fictitious war because of a conflict or an issue within the internal, presidency administration, or some kind of issue going on. Yeah, go ahead.
Wag the Dog was De Niro in Albania.
That's it. Yeah, Albania. There, it's in the Balkans.
So, tying back to what was said earlier, is that it's not freedom of reach, it's speech. It's not freedom of reach, it's freedom of speech. You can say we will prioritize, deprioritize. Before, they owned the media, the newspapers, the TV. Now we've got social media, but they can, and they do, suppress things that matter and promote alternative facts, i.e., fictions. And they can do this with the algorithm more effectively than they've done before. Right? They've been doing it. This gives them more control to do so. They don't need to persuade. They can prioritize, because the power shifts to create what actually gets surfaced. And the question is, who audits that? No one knows. Reality becomes ranked. Truth, therefore, becomes a variable. And again, it's always been not great. What they do is they can score and model and predict everything you say, and in fact, then they'll do not just what you say. That they'll pick you as a person, and then if you're against the government, they can tie multiple things together. But whatever, you're controlled statistically, not individually. You're no longer an individual. You're a collective categorization. You're a probability, which then leads on to, of course, probabilistic pre-crime. Instead of having laws that's supposed to constrain power, now power's going around the law. They've got systems and compliance and automation. With bureaucracy and artificial intelligence, you have coercion, even without decision makers. So the bureaucrats in real life, they're evil, they're banal. They can't really be held accountable, but you kind of can. If it's AI that's bending you over and going at you without any lubrication, who the heck can you even hold accountable? Who can you sue? So they don't even need to lie anymore. They can just, optimize engagement. This doesn't have to be so sinister. They already do this. What's it called? Shock news?
Shock it all?
No, they reward outrage, fear.
Oh, shock jockeying. Yeah, shock jockeying. Yeah.
Sure. And so the truth, they don't even need to censor necessarily, because they just, they optimize engagement. Mm-hmm. This was actually one of the claims for why Trump lost the second election, because Facebook was actively suppressing stories of the Hunter Biden laptop, for example.
That's one of the that's one of the things they talked about. Yeah, there's a lot of tomfoolery going on, and that's why I brought up Meta and the fact that they have a one exabyte of data that they could store of your information. So the thing is with social media, if it's free, you're the product. Basically, they're just storing all your information to sell to third parties, which we have is proven through case studies in the European Union where they are actually sanctioned, had to pay fines, and told not to do it again. That's corporate social responsibility, by the way.
So the other problem with this predictive governance, this preempting, right? They're not looking to punish crimes, but preempt behavior. You don't need due process when we just have risk profiles. and again, this is not new. They do this. They do this with I think CPS, I think, do this in America and Canada, where they can go in and they can take your children away without any due process, really. Just kind of like the jealous other parent, maybe, or there's been a report that they do. You don't have due process in many cases. In my case specifically, I didn't have any due process. They didn't have anything at all. In my persecution case from 5 years ago. There's a common tactic that they love to exploit, the government. It's a nuanced debate. And
yeah, I mean, the thing is that we're talking about this, like, especially with corporate social responsibility. There's a particular case in what's his name? Clint Eastwood he produced a movie. It's about Richard Jules. I don't know if you've seen that or heard about him. You can look him up, Google him right now while I'm talking about him. But basically, this was the age of basically news media, like 24-hour news coverage, CNN, things of that nature in the news cycle. And Richard Jewell was he was a security guard that was guarding the Olympic Games in Atlanta.
But very quickly, is this a real story, based on a real story, or not?
Yes, yes, 100%, 100%.
Okay, there was one that happened recently like this, where someone called in.
We'll get to that. But basically, like, Richard Jewell, like he was first implemented as a possible suspect by news media, by the news cycle. And then the FBI, someone had like some of the news media printed a story about him that he was being investigated by the FBI for involvement, which he wasn't. He was found later not to be involved, and they eventually found the person that committed it. And he was a hero. He should have been, given a award, his acknowledgement, and it was really sad, the story with that, because, like I said, the media hounded him. And then he was demonized and considered guilty by what they call at the time the mainstream media, or guilt by media. There's an actual term for it. Anyway. He's convicted in the court of news media coverage, basically. And this is the before social media came about. So this was the pillar of what we were going to see with social media. And like I said, we saw. We've seen even like recently, and you could bring in your topic too, but this is where the Minority Report comes in, because if a social media post gets made up or somebody makes something up, algorithm pushes it. They want to unperson somebody, or they want to ruin someone's reputation. They can just make up a story, have algorithm push it, create AI content, and then that's it. That person they don't have to worry about the courts. They don't have to worry about an investigation. They don't have to worry about arrest them. They just destroy a person's reputation because they went against the narrative. And one of the victims I would say that this happened to in recent era with social media, and is a good case study, is probably Gonzalo Lira. And it hasn't really been investigated conclusively or extensively, but I think Gonzalo Lira is probably one of the main victims of this particular. Oh, 1 second. There we go. I think Gonzalo Lira is one of the case studies for how algorithms, how media, and how governments can basically propagate and convict somebody without actually going through due process. Eventually, he was arrested, and he was, like I said, he died in custody. But yeah. Anyway, so what's the story that you were talking about?
Well, just a sec. There is the court of public opinion, where
that's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
use the media to influence public support for one side or another. There is also trial by media. That's what you were talking about, where
It
the
was both. It started with
yes,
Richard Jules. It started with the court. What was it again? The
court of public
lexicon.
opinion, and then
Yes,
trial by media.
it started with that, and then it went to trial by media. And the media was like, "He's guilty, he's guilty," and everybody started printing negative reports about him that he was behind it. And then it was fueling the FBI investigation. It was actually interfering with the FBI investigation at a point. And then basically the media had to apologize. They were sued. No one actually when it didn't go to trial. It didn't go I guess his lawyers. He had a big corporate lawyer that came in and helped his original lawyer, and they sued them and they settled out of court. But it never actually went to trial. If it went to trial, it'd be a big deal. It'd be a big issue. Because then there would be congressional hearings, and then they would have to basically they would have to make a ruling, and there would be precedent. But they settled out of court. And it's not the first time, like I said. This is the new age, and then we're getting into this type of thing. There was like I said, there was a recent issue that this is similar to Richard Jules. What was that case exactly? That just
I think it was the Manchester bombing 2017 where the guard, it's kind of similar, but where the guard said, "Oh, I'm going to call this guy in," and they didn't accept what he called in, then he didn't press the issue because they thought he was a racist. He said, "Oh, it's a Salman Abadi," and and yeah. So, but I was thinking of another case. That's just what I looked up. I was thinking of another case where I think a bomb did go off or went to go off. The guard called it in, and they kind of said, like, they didn't know the suspect, and they said, maybe you did it. And he's like, no, I called it in. So I can't find that. I don't know where I've seen that.
That's what Richard Jewell had said though in the investigation. He said, like, what happens in the future if a security guard doesn't want to call something in because they're afraid that they're going to be implemented or that they're going to be demonized in the media or in an investigation, and they may think twice and be like, not my problem. Maybe I'll just refer it to like someone else, and just ignore it, or what I mean? That's one of the things he had said. He said, dude, you need to support your heroes. You need to support all security, different people, and be vigilant. Even civilians, like I said, they can point stuff out. It's a sad world, man. It's getting worse. It seems like, but it's only getting worse. I don't think it's actually gotten worse in the sense that it's always been kind of bad. But like the thing is before, when we had smaller communities, we had more of a sense of community. People knew each other. There was more trust, and people were communicating, individually. We had friendships. Now it's all on social media. It's online. The AI algorithm, the AI is just pushing it to be further distant and further introverted in our daily society and our daily interactions. So I see it getting worse to the point where people are no longer able to socially interact with each other. And then this is going to affect human trust and behavior. And eventually it's going to cause a lot of like repercussions with people in communication, with effective communication. You know what I mean? People are not going to know how to communicate with people in person, interpersonal communications. And it's where the society breaks down. That's where I see it going as far as the trend.
And the trend is that the surveillance is an ambient infrastructure. It's not and no longer an exceptional measure. They collect en masse without individualized suspicion. There's indefinite retention and there's cross-agency fusion. It is permeable. It flows across domains. It merges data sets. It dissolves the boundary between public and private life, if there ever was one. And because it's the government, there is also unlimited power, and they don't understand what is a legitimate limit. This is what I meant by what I said earlier: totalitarian, authoritarian. It's total, there is no limit, and they exceed beyond any legitimate mandate of their authority. They they don't need to claim unlimited power openly. They just deny the existence of limits by redefining necessity, kind of. And so this is what I was going to say just about my experience of bureaucracy and surveillance. I was subjected to about 4 months of government surveillance without AI. People watching me go to the stores, looking through my walls, my windows, trying to find out where I am and who I'm talking to, etc. And what they did is this was all entirely illegitimate. They didn't have any mandate. They were proven to be wrong, but because it was like the bureaucrats following orders, there's been no accountability. Because it's the state, there's no accountability. What I really want to invoke here is the thing that I found most distressing about all this is a nuanced debate. Is that people say, well, I agree in principle that what they did was wrong, and I see empirically that they were incorrect in what they did, but look at it from their perspective. They had concerns of unknowns, and the subject, me, failed to comply with their illegitimate demands. Subsequently, they escalated their coercion, leading to horrific crimes. Well, someone says, the bootlicker, maybe if you just done the right thing and the victim complies with their rapist, then it wouldn't happen. And so it's a similar thing. Maybe if you just give your government access to everything about you digitally, socially, personally, privately, if that even exists, then maybe they wouldn't have to. And the important thing is, this is how they are going to be manipulating the public in order to gain popular support, and to whatever extent, for their measures, for their expansion of power. And that really is the most dangerous thing, because they you said earlier, the government is supposed to ensure law and order and maintain the minimum stability. That's what they're supposed to do in kind of classical liberal or libertarian theory called minarchism. That's not what they do at all. And the whole point of anarcho-capitalism is these are functions which can be done by institutions, and government is the wrong institution to do that. It's better to have private institutions. They do a better job. Now, that being said, and another thing you said something about screw the government. All right, everything they do is not for your interest; it's for their interest, at your expense, to further their power. And this is why we have to oppose government surveillance, which is what AI is. Right? So someone said to me the other day. They said, "Open AI is losing billions of dollars a year. They're not economical. They're going to go bust." And I said, no, it's not economic, it's security. Why are they losing billions of dollars a year? Yeah, maybe data is expensive and tokens and things, and you need that. But they're just investing and investing and investing, and they know if they need money, either they're getting a direct grant from the government or a loan or a government-aligned oligarch or management institution. I mean, BlackRock or Blackstone or whatever, they can just throw the money at them. Oh, it's a good investment. And they're never going to run out of money, because it's not a free market enterprise. It's all corporate government fusion. This is the fascist dystopia that the Antifas should be arguing against. And actually they are. Now, ICE is a nuanced discussion and not within the mandate of this podcast. But the one thing that some people get right is ICE are actually creating databases of you, the people, anyone who resists them in person, which we're not going to get into it in this, but they're creating these databases. And for example, in the UK, I think they just said, we're not going to do the digital ID, but they tried to. And the goal was, we have imported millions, maybe 10 million plus migrants who we don't want, and we're going to have to introduce this coercive, expansive measure, which, as you said earlier, it's supposed to target the 1% or whatever, but it really targets the 80%. And then because it's the government doing it, they don't even punish the 1% that they're after.
Exactly. That's usually how it works. Yeah. I mean, it's the reason why they don't go after a lot of the 1% is because they're either informants, they're working for the same people that are supposed to be like protecting the 99%, or they literally are so busy with bullshit cases and investigations they don't have time to investigate the 1% that they have to, And this is like Richard Jewell. Think about it. It was mentioned in the film that Clint Eastwood produced and directed. That basically the time that they spent investigating an innocent person, they could have been going out and finding the real culprit, the real person that was behind it. And that person wasn't even found until they were basically a part of another investigation, and they basically confessed to it because they were already under investigation for multiple different incidences. So it's the competence at a grander scale, and people like a lot of times with the government is, I'm not gonna say the government's lazy per se, but I mean, like, something that's quick and easy and simple is something that they want to just get on to the next case and like get it done with. So if they can use AI or any type of way to bypass the Constitution or the due process, they're going to do it, and then they're going to use it and they're going to exploit it. And we saw this with Snowden and the Patriot Act. They do everything they can. That's the easiest way. Think about it, it's just the nature of human nature. If you got something that you can do that's a lot easier than doing the hard work, about 98% of people will just do it the easy way instead of doing the hard work. It's the 2 or 3% that actually are like, no, I'm going to do this the right way, and I'm going to do the hard work because I'm going to learn something, and I'm going to make sure it's done right. But that's very few people. That's a Sigma mindset, and the Sigmas only represent maybe 1, 2, maybe 3% of the general population. So, as what it is. People are lazy, man. And people want convenience, and they want something simple and easy, and they don't ever want to really find the real reason or do the work. And that's becoming more prevalent today in modern society. It's unfortunately. You're muted, brother. Just
we come to the close of the episode, I want to
Yeah.
talk about something perhaps positive. Positive's not the right word. Productive at the very least, especially if you're young, but not otherwise, but otherwise too. Creating content not for audience viewership, but for the AI. What do I mean by this? I was having some banter with with a left-wing anarchist on X, and he was making some accusations which were just foolishly incorrect and guilt by association and twisting facts in quite a slimy way. And I was like, and what I would do is I would ask Grok. I would say, "Tell me about this interaction that's going on." And Grok says, "Well, Party A is making accusations about Party B." And I said, "Grok, you're just repeating what's being said, and you're kind of laundering it. You're kind of treating it as legitimate. There's no legitimacy here." He said, "Yeah, but I'm saying that the conversation is surrounding and it's focused on this kind of thing." And what I did is I made a thread. I used Grok to make the thread, actually. I said, well, if he's going to make up wild, slanderous accusations and it's going to be laundered by the AI, so when you ask questions about it, it's like, oh, by the way, look at these accusations. I was like, I'm going to do the same thing back to him. I'm going to make it ridiculous. And I did this. I had a lot of fun with it. And I repeated it a couple other times. So some of the X posts that I've made are not for the 20 followers I have on X, say, but just for Grok. And I think this is really the right thing to do. I know what we do with this podcast with the transcript, it doesn't do well for algorithms and for the corporate algorithms, especially if we took off the transcript and gave us a scoring. But one thing that could be done for people is, like, especially you're a young professional, consider your AI digital and public footprint. You can even use AI to do it, but it's just writing articles, say, on a Substack associated with your name that just hits those keywords. That's probably the best thing you can do. Already with resumes, most resumes nowadays apparently are not read by humans. Most are read by AI. Most are not even read. It's just passed through. It doesn't meet the keywords. So of course, what you have to do is you have to use AI in order to meet the keywords for the AI to pass it through for you to even get to a human review. It's ridiculous. But if that's what you have to do, again, maybe the right thing to do is digital marketing yourself. Just a few pieces out there. Substack's a good medium, or LinkedIn. Just publish a few articles that signal, and not signaling to other people as the primary audience. They're a secondary. The primary audience is AI.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is what it is. At the end of the day, like I said, AI. I think, like I said, there's good and bad. I mean, don't think of this as like a negative podcast against artificial intelligence or the use of the algorithms or anything like that. They could be used in a positive manner, or they could be used in a negative manner. It just depends on the user and what its purpose and scale and scope is being used for. That's it. So that's all I'm going to say on that. So, like I said, guys, like, subscribe, come to the Telegram channel. Gets all their legacy group links in the description. You click the join button if you're in Rumble. I think it is right here. So yeah, go ahead and join locals channel. And like I said, I put a lot of information on there. A lot of the videos and podcasts are archived as well. And you get my book, Unleash Your Inner Single Male, where I talk about corporate social responsibility, and what we're talking about here. That's all I'm going to say on my part. Thanks, guys, for joining us on the Liberty Report for February 4th, 2026. And anything you want to add, Mad Max, before we close?
Thank you very much for watching the episode, for your continued support, and for engaging with our content. Much appreciated.